So let's get our first panel down here. Really, this whole day or whole afternoon, I should say, is going to be about the leaders for the next 10 years. I mean, the hardware makers, the processor makers, the content makers. We did the best to get the best down here. So let's just give us a moment to set up the first panel, and we'll get started. We've got PC, mobile here. I'd like each of our panelists to introduce themselves, please. So go ahead, Manuel.
So, hello, my name is Emmanuel Marquez, and I am the CTO of Starbreeze Studios. Starbreeze is a digital publisher and content maker. Our flagship title nowadays is Payday 2. We have other titles coming on the line, like The Walking Dead. And 2 years ago, we went enough crazy to decide to go inside the VR, because we really believe that gaming and other content and type of application are going to be successful through VR in the coming years. And we even extend our craziness to create our own hardware, and we are producing a headset named Star VR that some of you might have tried or not around the Walking Dead experience. But we are also producing a lot of different VR titles like John Wick's Impossible Missions with Lionsgate and other partners. So we are really involved in VR.
Wonderful.
Hi, I'm the CTO of Foving. So we're making our own eye tracking head-mount display. I think StarVR also.
Yeah, we do some eye
cool.
tracking.
Yeah. So no, that's really interesting. I haven't actually met these guys yet, so it's a cool place to be. Basically, as most of you, I'm assuming, would know, we did a Kickstarter last year, and we raised almost $500,000. And since then, we've basically been heads down trying to bring it to the market. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun. As you probably know, we're very active in the research and development of VR, and we've got a keen interest in content, but we're not developing our own.
Bertrand?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Bert. I'm the CEO and founder of Urbana. We're the only VR and AR headset on the market that can do immersive 120 field of view. So just to give you an example, the HoloLens is 30 by 20, so we're 20 more times more immersive. And we've been getting ready for production, so mostly we're at CES to talk with big OEMs for the consumer market, but also we're raising our Series A for production on the enterprise side. We also just had a big breakthrough 2 weeks ago. We now have inside-out positional tracking. So we use computer vision with the cameras to track your position in space. So no need for lasers or camera to track you.
Hello, everybody. I am Manuel Gutierrez Novello, and I am the CEO and founder of TD Vision and Immersion Relia. So you probably haven't heard a lot about TD Vision, but you know the 3D Blu-ray players. Well, that's something that we did in the past. We standardized the 3D Blu-ray players. And as a spin-off of TD Vision, we created Immersion Relia, a company that is bringing head-mounted displays as well to market. We have a mobile unit, smartphone-based. We have a professional unit. And out of the professional platform, we have two different types of products, one for VR and one for mixed reality. And we're using and leveraging pretty much all the technology that we have developed in TD Vision over the last probably 12 years, and we're bringing that into that same initiative that is called Immersion Reality. We have a head-mounted display that comes with two stereoscopic cameras, so we do the gesture recognition and the mapping environment, and we do augmented reality as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Nick DiCarlo from Samsung Electronics America. I run the Gear VR team here in the US, Milk VR, and just trying to be part of the VR community and try to get this thing over the hump.
Hello, my name is Claude Zellweger. I am the VP of Design at HTC. And you've probably seen we've launched the Vive Pre, so our second iteration of our VR system. And it's been about 2 years since we got together with Valve, our partner, and decided to take this task on of creating what we believe to be like the real I mean, immersion, everyone talks about immersion. But really creating an experience in the way that we feel like it should be, creating room scale VR. So, of course, getting over the basics of latency and so on. But I think now with being the first to market with fully tracked controllers and room scale VR, I'm really, really proud and excited to see what developers are going to be doing with that. So I'm excited to be here.
I wish I could take a picture from this perspective, because as these gentlemen were sharing, I was having a minor heart attack because I'm looking and I was like, where's Nicholas? I've got some on my list, and then fortunately he came forward. I thought we were missing a panelist for a second there.
Is that a short joke, or?
He said I need one of those 360 cameras just to make sure, but I'm glad you're all here. So, I think, I don't know if our panelists would agree with me, but I think CES marks the point where we're no longer just, the industry, is no longer working to just appeal to developers, like content makers, to support our technology. Now we're at the point where we're working to appeal directly to the consumers. We're at the point where products are going to be launched in the new year. Some have already, but we're looking forward to even more. And I think sales pitch is everything. It's a VR is a concept that not everyone gets to try before they buy. And I'd be interested, because the answer to this doesn't just impact your products, it's going to also impact content makers, because they've got to sell immersive technology and virtual reality as well. And I'd be interested to hear from each of you what your sales pitch is for VR. So we started this direction first, so let's go in reverse this time. So Claude, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. So it's very true with developers. You have a lot more time to explain yourself, and I think a lot of developers have been thinking about the space. It's easy for them to see the differences between the various offerings. Whereas with the end consumer, you have a very short time frame. So ideally, they get to do the demo. A lot of explaining, becomes unnecessary when you do the demo, because you experience it. You can understand the meaning. If you don't have time, you're right. I think all of the companies that are out there right now are going to have work to do to kind of explain their difference. I think I made my sales pitch just before. We believe right now we have the best VR as a whole system, the best VR system on the market, because we allow people to be untethered from the chair. So, full positional tracking over the size of a room. And allows you, for those who've experienced it just allows a totally different type of experiences. And I think for developers, it's just been something they latched on really quickly, because they can see how there's so much more that we can do with it. And this is not just for gaming and entertainment, but it goes into all the other sort of vertical markets.
Claude, if I could get more basic than that, like if we were for a moment to forget the products themselves, just the concept of VR. How would you sell it to people?
Oh, the whole concept. I think you can kind of like one is to say that it's sort of the next boundary in computers, like after smartphones, PC smartphones, and that alone, I think people can kind of understand that this is big. This, for those who haven't tried it. But the other is, I think it's the first new technology to come that has such a sort of visceral impact on you, and it can so fundamentally transform so many industries, whether it's sort of the narrative industry of entertainment all the way to creative industries, which I'm personally really interested in.
Nicholas, you're one of two panelists that specialize in mobile VR, and I think it's a little more complex than PC, and what I mean by that is well, I'll let you explain, but I'd like to hear how you're selling mobile VR.
Yeah, I think Claude said all the kind of key right things. You got to let people try it, let people know that it's there. What we try to do is present it very simply, and one of the things we've changed over the course of the last 6 months is we've moved away from pictures of pretty people wearing goggles to showing the content. Because I don't think anybody's cool enough to wear goggles and have that be an aspirational image, but the content is amazing. That's what brings us all here and why we're all so excited about it. So we've been really focusing on the kinds of cool content that's out there, and trying to make it really relevant. And I think one of the things I'm really glad that we've done, and we've seen lots of other people do as well, is something new to do every day. Because you don't want to put on the headset and have just the store look exactly the same, or your app look exactly the same. And it's like, oh, well, I already did this. I don't want to explore it further. So like Milk VR, we put up something new every day. Lots of the other apps have started to do the same thing. And it creates that coming back, because we all only have 24 hours and we need to fit it into our day. And the people who bought it, the great, first people that buy any VR headset, those are your best people, and you want to keep them amped with stuff. And so we always want new stuff every day. That's what we're really working towards.
No, wonderful. Manuel, you've been at this for some time.
Right. Yes.
So obviously there's a long-term commitment there. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your background and, what's your sales pitch for VR?
Sure. Well, yes, our background on the head-mounted display area dates back to probably 2003 and 2004, when we started the development of the first prototypes, and then we started selling to the military, medical, aerospace, and automotive applications, head-mounted displays. They were 720p, 90 degrees field of view back in 2006 and 2007. So that was a different market, and all these points are very good. But the thing is, we're talking about a huge spectrum of applications. So we have from the entry grade virtual reality users all the way to the super high professional, explicitly professional for aerospace and all that kind of. They require some higher level or degree of immersiveness or performance. So out of this spectrum, there's going to be a huge market for all the people that is sitting here down at the table. Now, what we sell on our sales pitch for VR is this. We want to the democratization of virtual reality. So we believe it's a new media. And as a new media, it's a new ecosystem. And this new ecosystem requires a new set of tools for acquisition, for encoding, for decoding, distribution, and visualization. So in order to achieve this democratization of virtual reality, we are encouraging the industry and the consumers to say, hey, you know what, try this. You have a smartphone, slide it in and try it for the first time. That's going to be probably your entry point, just like the Google Cardboard. But then from then on, every single person that inception seed of looking through virtual reality for the first time is going to trigger in their minds thousands and thousands of applications of every kind for architecture, for travel, for entertainment, education. So out of those ideas that are going to be coming out on the market, this infrastructure that we are creating together in virtual reality has to be strong enough to provide a system that is ubiquitous, universal, compatible, and it's everywhere. So the idea is, if you are going to be creating content, I'm sure that if you raise your hands, and how many people here is creating content, for instance? Well, there's a lot of people creating content. If you want to create content, you want to have as much eyeballs looking at your content as possible. So you're looking right now at many different options. So in our perspective, our pitch is we want to make it in such a way that you're not concerned about what platform you're targeting, but you should be able to create an experience and then to be able to see that experience in any platform the best way you can. That's our sales pitch for VR.
Wonderful. Bertrand, you have an early history as well. So 2 questions for you. What sold you, and what are you selling? And when I say what are you selling, please don't go into well, you can. You talk about the hardware if you want, but I think this vision that we're selling, we're all selling, really.
Yeah, so I think it started in my childhood because I'm a hardcore gamer, played all my life. So for me, the ultimate gaming experience was VR. I remember as a child, trying the Power Glove and saying, wow, the next step is the headset. Unfortunately, Virtual Boy was not really good. So that wasn't the plan I expected. But early adopter, went into engineering, and really the point where I decided to jump full-time into VR was the Xbox 360. So being an hardcore gamer, I play on console, on PC. So on PC is high graphics, super cool. But back then, in 2005, the consoles were really at the forefront of graphic revolution. They had the best chip, best graphic. Now it's a bit different. They're more cost conscious, so they don't have the latest and greatest. But it was to do a plug-and-play experience. For me, the Xbox 360 was a platform, so it started with that. Like you said, with micro displays and things like that. It wasn't up to what I wanted, so we've been iterating for 10 years. Now you have great screens with OLED and all that, and I think there's different segments. So mobile is going to be great for 360 videos. It's very accessible. Everyone has a smartphone. You can put it. It's like John Carmack said. I like his expression. It's like an infection vector. So you try it. It's cool, and then you want more. Then it might go. It might be a console because it's more affordable. You know, $400 for a PlayStation is better than $1,000 for a PC. And if you want more, you go on the PC. And then if you're a professional and you do car design, so like for us, we've been approached by a car manufacturer because they want a super lifelike experience. So they would want a 4K display or 8K display. I think there's places for everyone. And we're really going at the prosumer market. But the same technology can also be used for consumers. So one of our plans is to license the reference design for consumer and go at the prosumer industrial market by yourself.
Okay, very good. So, Lachlan, by the way, thank you. You flew in from Japan.
Yeah.
So you're a little jet lagged. So I've got
you're cold somehow by remote.
Oh my goodness! So I got you at your most vulnerable. Don't worry, I won't take advantage. But so you know, obviously, Bove is very much committed to VR. I mean, you're taking advantage of eye tracking.
Yep.
So what's your vision? What's going to ultimately sell this?
Well, I'll like just take a step back and like everyone's been sort of pitching like products and such, but like as the concept of VR, like being able to actually become a part of the content that you're, well, basically becoming a part of the game that you're playing or the content that you're making or something that you're doing is super important. And like, for me as a game player, the most compelling experience is to be completely and utterly immersed in my experience, in my game. And so there's always something that we have a problem with then, is like when you're so immersed in everything like this, we have to deal with the uncanny barrier. And there are a lot of things that are extremely uncanny in VR, like for example characters. They're looking at you, they're right in your face, but they don't react properly. They don't understand where you're looking, they don't understand what you're doing. So we're working on not just interaction, of course, with our eye tracking, but we're working on the ability for you to be an entity in VR and have VR able to look back at you as well and really understand you. But that's just from a game experience for a level. From a professional level as well, like we have being approached by a lot of medical people, for instance. Surgeons, they were very early adapters for head-mount displays when they were doing endoscopy surgeries. And the problem is they use head-mount displays, but then they can't interact with them at all. So our technology can empower these people as well. So we're focusing on empowerment and immersion at the same time. So, yeah.
Wonderful. So Emmanuel, you've been working with some of the most fun franchises that I could think of. You know, Walking Dead. Personally, I'm a huge fan. My wife, equally a huge fan. We watch it on PVR after our son's in bed. But nonetheless, you know, it's an interesting mix. Walking Dead and virtual reality. How'd you sell it? Where do you see things going?
So, as I said, pitch actually, we are game makers. So when we do a game, we do it for people have to have fun. This is what we do. If we don't give them fun, they don't play, they stop playing, and we don't succeed. This is the way we entertain our community. And by the way Starbreeze do game is by series. So basically, we deliver new content every 2 weeks for every event, and they enjoy it. So we are used to try to give fun. Our sales pitch is adhesion. The more player we get, the more fun we provide, and the better we are. So that's our sales pitch. This is how we win. What I believe is that we have been doing since 25 years, at least myself and a lot of people at Starbreeze, trying to provide the best fun and immersion in games in all our titles we developed on a 2D layers. So you could get fun, you have fun, you play together, and you have the multi-online aspect of it. And I believe with VR, it's the next step, because now I could provide fun, I could get you in the same environment, but I could also create memories. And that's a very important sales pitch, because it's the next step. It's really the next step to be immersed, to all play together. We could really extend what gaming is. So we are really focused on the gaming, and why we develop our hardware and everything with that is because I want to be able to go to the best possible experience without any blockers or boundaries of third parties to depend on. So we really control everything, and this is where we are going. We will be done when we are done. This is the way you do a good games, and I think this is the way we are going to provide an experience in VR. I'm not here to provide, of course we do hardware, so we several PCs, but at the end what we want to provide is an experience, and that's very important.
Wonderful. So I'm going to direct this to Nicholas and Claude, one at a time, because you've either got a product in the market or you've got a product that's about to come into the market. Is that, for content makers, they need to make a living. And I was wondering if you had some advice for content makers looking to get into the virtual reality field, if there's any recommendations or expectations, anything that would help them out so they have a successful business in this field. So, Nicholas, maybe you could go ahead.
Sure, and Claude let me put in my Vive pre-order while I was sitting here, so that's good. This time last year, what we would say, particularly to like VR filmmakers, is just start. Nobody's better at you than this because everybody just started. But a year has gone by, and we've released almost 500 titles. The Oculus Store has lots of apps in it, and so now generally most people don't ask that anymore. But if they do ask, I would challenge them to really look at what's out there and don't just do the same thing again. Right? The scuba diving, the tower shooter, to move it past the next level. And actually, one of my favorite examples is a Vive game out of Austin, Job Simulator. Those guys are really smart about what they're talking about and sort of their gameplay. I love to hear them talk about sort of their design choices, and they're thinking really, really hard about it. And that's the kind of stuff I love to see. Claude?
Yeah. So as a designer, I'm sort of partial to the teachings of minimalism. Less is more. And I think that really applies also for VR experiences. Because I think due to the fact that I can look in every direction, right? There is always, a lot of the times you get that feeling of missing out on things. Am I looking in the right direction? And so there's a lot of onus on the creators to create experiences that make you feel like you are looking just at the right thing, and sort of you're getting a very strong impression from one particular aspect of your full environment, right? So I think that for me is, if I'm really drilling down to design, this is a really important element for content creators to be successful in it, is to really look at the real benefits of VR, and not just kind of taking the gaming mentality of sensorial overload and just shoving it into VR. I don't think that's so successful. I think the narrative can be very minimal, and then really working with sound. Like sound is sometimes more important than the visuals, right? And I think I like what you said about being, present, and sort of how do you create, both with technical elements but also with the narrative, the sense of really interacting with avatars or whatever it is. So just less is more.
Okay, very good. Did anyone want to add, by the way, any business recommendations for content makers or fellow technology makers getting into the business?
Well, I would like to add something, that there's going to be a proliferation of creation of content, clearly. Everybody's either starting to create content, or they are already creating content for one platform, multiple platforms, or whatever. The thing is, the quality that is poured into the experience itself I will highlight that please put all the quality you can into your experiences, into your games. The reason why I'm asking this and begging this is because I don't want to see something happening in the industry where there's a lot of applications out there in the market for each one of the platforms or for any platform that when the user tries it, they don't like it because it's not properly designed or there are some misconceptions or errors on the moment of rendering or either the convergence, the separation, or whatever the factors or parameters they are using to program. If they are not correct, they're going to provide a bad experience. And it's cool. I mean, you can see like in the iPhone ecosystem, you have all these applications, right? And out of all the applications out there in the iPhone store, just a few are actually good. Some others you download them, you use them, you say, oh, I'll just erase it, then I'll try to find a better one. The thing is, if we keep falling, or if there's not a certification process for the quality and the performance of the application on each one of the platforms, we're probably going to face a problem of disaccreditation in the industry, where somebody tries something, they don't like it, and they will just, by word of mouth, they will say, you know what, I tried this and I didn't like it. And that's not good for the industry. So if we really want to make this the right way, pour all your level of effort in the quality of the experience itself. So the user always gets impressed with your experiences. That, like having and going to the next level, as you were saying, like always go to the next level. Don't do the same thing. Go to the next level, but do it in the way that you feel proud of what you're creating, and that the users that are using it or experiencing it, they feel compelled. And I love to see the people using some experiences and you know screaming and saying all these things and this is so real, this is fantastic, that's great. But there are some other experiences when you try them and it's not that good. So pour a lot of quality on your experiences. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, and put away with conventions. You know, when you're coming up with new experiences. I see too many right now that are just taking typical gaming conventions or desktop iconography and just porting into VR, and I think there's a big missed opportunity there. I mean, over the next few years, you're going to see some new standards that are going to be successful that have nothing to do with the way we interact with content today. So,
You need to build from scratch.
Brave.
Don't port again.
yeah.
You do it from scratch. It cannot be like something you take and just say same concept. I mean, you need to have a game design. You need to have something that's definitely made for VR, and that's true for every content that goes to VR. Game or every derivative, even in a pro market, you need to think about what you're providing.
Right, and just really quick, as a new media, as it is, we're also going to be facing a new completely level of classification of content. So not only create new content, but I guess the ITA should probably, and it's already doing some stuff on that regard, the classification of the content, if it includes some level of dizziness or how scary it is. And there's some people that we don't want to have a heart attack while, watching an experience in virtual reality.
Only some people, right? Not everybody. We don't want. Go ahead.
Specific targets. So the idea is that we have to create an entire new classification system. It's a new media. It's going to require new standards, new classifications, new content, not to port, not to copy, not to try to bring up from the previous level, but create from scratch. I agree with that.
So I've got a question for y'all, and comparables. Okay, leading up, I was when Oculus got their start on MTBS. I mean, things really blossomed in a big way. It went from being an open source to then a Kickstarter, and then multi-million-dollar investments and a huge acquisition. But in parallel to that, obviously, the whole industry took a renewed interest in this space with all kinds of innovations. HTC, immersive reality, I mean, this whole Samsung, this whole table is a wonderful, proud list of innovations, and there's even more that we couldn't, of course, fit here. But actually, there's no but. The question I have is if we're going to be realists and look for a future with a long-term industry, what would be the comparable? I mean, if you're an investor, if you're a content creator, a future consumer, what technology or examples of technology would you compare virtual reality to? So people have an expectation, something to match against. as an open-ended question.
I have one thing, I think back to the time when I first saw one of my friends playing a 3D game.
Closer to the mic.
Sorry. I think back to the time when I first saw one of my friends playing a 3D game on their PC. I was like, what is this? That's really cool. How is the computer doing that? Like, I've never seen anything like that. They said, oh, it was a 3D effects, graphics card. It's like a graphics, even though it's a graphics card, it was like a revolutionary change in your way of thinking about what you're doing in the computer. Like, previously, I've been playing these 2D arcade games, or I'd seen some 3D things like Doom, and it was like, yeah, it was okay. But now I was seeing, really smoothly, nicely rendered Quake, and I was like, it just looked like a completely different world. Everything, instead of being pixels, textures, really nice. And, yeah, it's like vector graphics rather than raster almost. Looked amazing. And it was this kind of paradigm shift. Like, it started out with a few crazy people with expensive graphics cards, like a kind of maniac hobby thing, but then it became a fundamental part of almost every computing experience.
Bertrand, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the limiting factor will be really the graphic cards, because if right now mostly the screen technology are based on smartphones, and if you look at smartphones, maybe they'll bump resolution every 2 years. So the Note 3 and the Note 4, the Note 4 and the Note 4 are at 1440p, so maybe the Note 6 will be at 4K, and I think that's something we can look into in the future. Maybe like the 8K will be in 3 years and things like that. But you need the graphic cards to push the pixel at 90 Hz, maybe 120. Eye tracking is maybe part of the solution to do a foveated rendering. So of course, technology will evolve that way. But I don't know. I think they said at 16K we'll not see any more the pixels. It's going to be lifelike. So I think we have maybe another 5 to 7 years until we hit the pixel barrier. But yeah, I think 2 to 3 year cycle for a new generation is what I see.
So, Emmanuel, maybe you'd like to add to that. What other industries would you compare VR to as far as a timeline from prototyping to actually having a mass market? Are there other?
Well, I tend to agree that we are at the same time where we are discovering the possibility to take pro market 3D rendering on silicon graphics coming actually at your home, and it was driving by the games, of course.
How long did it take, approximately?
The first machine you will be able to play with was 89, if I remember right, with the silicon graphics 4D, and Quake is 97, and I think then TNT came on and stuff like that, and then it was blow up 3DFX.
Yeah, 3DFX was a big revelation for me.
I think we are exactly at the same stage.
It's like
so since it's been said, we have also a problem. Our problem is way bigger than what we are doing, because I believe nowadays the headsets are too big, that's for sure. The power of the computers that power actually the headset are very big, and they are not enough powerful, so it's a problem. So we will have to fix all that. It's a full chain that probably need a reboot in a certain way. So I think there is a lot to do on the upcoming years. So because I don't think we have the hardware that's actually capable to power what we would like to do in VR, because the end of story is we all want to be in the Matrix. Because never forget that VR is a social piece.
You know what? I've seen this Matrix. I don't know what everyone's so excited about. I mean, agents chasing you, trying to take you out, disconnect, pulling plants out of your neck.
I don't need to plug you. We find something else.
If the agents are coming for you, you've done something wrong.
So actually, Claude, I have a question for you, and it speaks to business, because I think, if I'm reading correctly, I think HTC is doing something very interesting overseas in China. And are you able to talk about that as to virtual reality cafes and so on? Can you speak to some of the latest work HTC is doing?
Yeah, this has been great for us, this collaboration with the Chinese internet cafes. And I think it's going to be kind of a test for us also to see how this can be a new channel to get people to try it in large amounts and make it a very casual kind of experience. Just walking to the cafe like going to an internet cafe. And I think the Chinese market is going to be really interesting for us also because there's a lot of, obviously there's a big drive towards big cities in China, but there's still a very large rural population who can really benefit from sort of accessing the world through a virtual lens. And even though it is a sizable entry price for someone who maybe doesn't have a lot of income, but what it opens up, the possibilities, we actually believe that a lot of people are going to make this kind of one of those key purchases that they save up for, which I think the smartphones fell into, and that whole industry has now plateaued. It's been saturated, and I think VR is going to fall into that same category where people are going to save up for it, and especially once you have the content and yeah, some of the comments you made about the hardware, of course, it still has a ways to go, but at least it works pretty well now, and it's going to get smaller and faster and all that.
Nicholas, I'd like to add a question for you. When I started this session, I talked about processing power and how long it's going to take, but I don't think I properly expressed all the wonderful things that we're doing with the processing power we have today, because a colleague of mine explained that the mobile, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the mobile technology we have today is about delivering the graphics which we had approximately 10 years ago. But 10 years ago, we had wonderful games like Doom and all kinds of exciting stuff. So I'd be interested to hear through Samsung Gear VR, all the exciting things that you're doing in VR, because people are impressed with it, and you do some wonderful stuff, and I'd like to hear about it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. When I joined mobility, there wasn't data on phones, there wasn't color screens, there wasn't cameras, and I still feel like I'm young. In that time, there's been this massive technological change and global culture change. And so when I think about VR, and we know that mobile VR is like, Gear VR gets you over that hump of this is good VR, but it's not like on the level of PC VR, right? And you think about, okay, let's see what this machine can do with that kind of runway and that kind of roadmap. It's startling to think through the possibilities of what you can do, and some amazing demos out there in the Eureka Lab with a warehouse scale, mobile position tracking, and it's just unbelievable. And it's such the industry, moving in lockstep with consumers, can really just create these amazing solutions and move the ball forward so far. It's startling. But I think to go back to your specific question, we announced this product in September 2014. Nobody thought we were going to launch it. Like, they were just like, okay, great, cool, nice announcement, right? And then we launched it, and then they're like, wait a second, it actually works? Like, that was unbelievable. Now it's like, oh, you don't have position tracking, you don't have this, you don't have that. And it's like, hey, 6 months ago, you didn't think this thing was going to work. So, I love to, it's good to have been right, and then, let's keep, just keep pushing and see what people build. It's the response from the creative technical community, sort of those two groups together, has been, unbelievable, exceeding all expectations. You could easily just see this being a category that's ignored, right? We're going to wait for PC VR. We're going to wait for augmented reality or whatever, but you see the people diving into it, and man, it's exciting. It's really cool.
Wonderful. So one more question, then we got to conclude the panel, and I'm going to ask you to be brief, but it's a big question, so it's going to be challenging to see how brief you could be. I'd like to know what your 10-year vision is. How will VR play in our daily lives 10 years from now? So one at a time. Go ahead, Claude.
I'm a hardware guy at the heart. So I certainly imagining a world where there's a ton of miniaturization going on, and everyone talks about a certain merging of VR and AR, which will happen. I don't think it happens quite as quickly as people may think it will. But for AR, miniaturization is critical, because now you're asking people to wear this outside as they're out and about. So there's more of a social awareness around it. So in order to achieve something that's going to be mass marketable, it has to be fashionable. So things need to get small, things need to get faster, bandwidths need to get better, will get better. But yeah, I'm really excited about seeing where that's going to take us, where I can call up the virtual aspect at any time within seconds. So meaning it's with me all the time. And I think 10 years from now, we really will have that, to what extent we'll see.
Nicholas?
Yeah, I think the way I try to reverse the question, it's not what are we going to be doing in VR, it's what are you going to not be doing in VR. Like, you're just going to watch the news, you're going to, keep up with your friends. That's what we're working towards.
Manuel?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned a keyword, pushing technology. We keep pushing the technology, and it's a safe assumption to say that 10 years from now, we will be able to do things that today are close to impossible to do. I remember creating some artificial intelligence and neural network processes for stereoscopic analysis of the environments for some military projects. And we used to have like Tesla bricks chained to each other just to process the images. Now I'm doing that with one single NVIDIA chip. And that processing power that I'm putting in this thing to do the whole process in a self-contained environment has proven that all the safe assumptions that we can make today about saying, okay, we're going to have this everywhere, it's going to be very likely that we're going to have the processing power to drive the craziest resolution. And it's an endless race. I mean, we were talking about 2K, 4K, 8K. Well, it's an endless race. There's always going to be more, okay? There's always going to be more. So virtual reality is going to become a tool. It has to be seamless. It has to be accessible for everybody. And in 10 years, with all these factors, with all this processing power, low in cost, we will be able to use that for every single activity that we can imagine. So it's going to become a tool, just like my iPhone. I can't live without my iPhone. So it's going to become a tool to the point where you cannot think about going to school or creating a new DNA sequence for altering, the genetics or whatever, or create a new nanostructure technology for a new material without VR. So it's going to be pretty much used for everything. And in the field of applications is fine, but I am more inclined to the education also, but kind of the, let's call it the romantic way. So once you start capturing in immersive experiences, 360 immersive experiences, content of every kind, news, events, shows, we have seen a lot of cameras right now, and there are going to be more and more and more. So if we start capturing that information and we put it in let's say, a repository in the cloud, okay, and we push the fast forward button 10 years from now, you will be able to look back in time 10 years from now and be here and walk on the aisle of the CES show of 2016. So you're effectively kind of making a quantum jump and traveling on time. That kind of things applied to emotions, to training, education, history. That's the key for me of the applications. That's for me the valuable outcome of virtual reality and the way we can accelerate the cognitive evolution of the human species.
Okay, very good.
Okay, I don't want to repeat all the good ideas. So I think, miniaturization will be really important. But I think like mixed and blended reality, you'll be able to be 100% in VR or be in the real life with augmented worlds. The same device will do both. Light field and all that will enable that too. And for me, VR is the final platform. It's a new media. You can do whatever you want. You can do space travel if you want. Yeah, you don't need to go to Mars. You can do it in VR. So I think training, education, virtual tourism, what you desire, you can do in VR, and AR will be mostly for productivity, I think, in the business setting and all that. And I think it's like you said, you'll have your cell phone. Now we have our cell phone. In the future, we'll have just our device that's going to be so small, or contact lenses, or I don't know. We'll see that will follow with you, and you can say, okay, now I'm working, I'm in AR. Now when I relax, I go, on a virtual beach. It's going to be part of your everyday life. So I think the future is exciting.
So I think 10 years from now, VR is going to be super important for social experiences as well. It's not just a static thing like you put it on, you go to a beach, that's good. But I really think people are going to be hanging out in VR. And that's going to be one of the major things. Not just hanging out, but like playing games. Like you'll be doing your raid, and at the end of the raid, you guys will all be wearing your helmets and be chatting about it. And you're like, that was awesome. And actually seeing each other as if you were there. And like when you go out and go have a drink in real life, you'll be like, hey, the graphics are not so good here. Let's go back. So, yeah.
But you still need to have the alcohol in the virtual world. So that's another technology paradigm.
It's like just a little bit of rain in the spaces and send a bit of some signals back.
Without the hangover.
So, well, they almost said everything.
Sorry.
I said they almost said everything. But what I'm going to tell you is that the first time I was working on VR was in 1989. That was 26 years ago. Hurry up, guys, because 10 years, I would like to see everything you said happening. Because in another 26 years, I would like to be on the
Okay, well, let's give our panel a round of applause, please.